All right, so yes, this is the presentation about the EB2 NIW Green Card webinar that I'm going to be giving you guys just now. So the overview, we're going to talk about my story. So I'm going to put this into 4 sections. Section A, my story and what is EB2 NIW. And then we go to section B, which will talk more about the eligibility part of the EB2 NIW. And then we'll talk about how do you build a profile as an individual with a master's degree so that you can get a green card, okay? Or you can get approved for the EB2 NIW, right? Then section D is about application processes, and just some nouns is about how can you use lawyers, and also how maybe I can be of help to you guys if you think my experiences can actually help you to get a green card. All right, so this is my story. My story, I came here very recently, August 2021. I was studying a program in Master in Global Management at Arizona State University. But from the day I came from Africa, from Zimbabwe, I was very much aware of the EB2 NIW, and that is exactly what I was pursuing. So I started to work on my profile when I was a student. I started to actually think, how can I get this green card as fast as I can? So I worked on my profile in April 2023, which is last year when I was about to graduate. I then incorporated 2 of my companies, and I then successfully applied for the EB2 NIW this past March, and it got approved in just 4 days, like literally 4 days. Like I just sent it through, and after 4 days, they actually send me an approval and say, hey, we have approved your case. We have approved your EB2 NIW petition, which was great for me. And for those who have known me for a little bit of time, they know that I was always telling them that I will start companies and I would just use the companies to get a green card. And people, some of them were not believing it, some were believing it, but this is where we are right now. And the good part of it is I did not spend $10,000 with lawyers. I just did it myself. In fact, I asked a lot of lawyers when I arrived in the United States of America, and I told them my story. I want to get an EB2 NIW green card. So what should I do? Which areas should I work on so that when I make my application, it will be a strong case? And many lawyers were like, oh, you know what, just follow the H-1B route. You know, it's easier, it's this. But I knew I could do this thing. So I ignored the lawyer's advice. And then after graduating just like 9 months ago, I then asked about 3 lawyers again about my case. Hey, look, my case looks like this. Do you think this will stand a chance? And all of them said, no, this will not stand a chance. So I just ended up saving my $10,000 and I did it on myself. So that's what I did, guys. And then I put the application and it was just approved. But I'm going to take you through a journey now of what is EB2 NIW, right? A lot of people have got misunderstandings about this green card or this visa. So the EB2 NIW is defined as that green card which is of second preferences when it comes to employment-based green cards. Among the employment-based, it's actually on the second category, right? So there is EB1, and EB1 is categorized into EB1A and EB1B, okay? So EB2 is also categorized into EB2 NIW, which means it comes with a national interest waiver. And there's also EB2 where the employer can actually sponsor you, right? So what we're focusing on here today is EB2 NIW. In other words, you can self-petition yourself for this green card. You just need to prove that you meet the eligibility requirements. So the myth is around the EB2 NIW are as follows. People practically think that this EB2 NIW visa or green card is actually just for STEM fields, right? But individuals from various other professions can actually get this. A lot of people think that you need a job offer. You don't need a job offer to get EB2 NIW. A lot of people will tell you that you also need to be in the STEM professionals. While a lot of people get this visa or a green card STEM professionals, you just need a master's degree. A master's degree, that's what you need. And if you don't have a master's degree, you need 5 years experience and a bachelor's degree in an area that you do have that 5 years experience, right? The other myth also is they are very low approval rates apparently this is one of the green cards that has got a higher approval rates as compared to other employment-based green cards, especially in this dispensation that we've just been in. The other also thing, people say you need a length and complicated process to do the application, but you just need to put in some hours. It's not necessarily as lengthy as EB1, to be honest with you. And then you don't need publications or patents. You don't need to be that too special for you to actually apply for this green card. Okay. And then let's go on the next slide. So this is the eligibility for EB2 NIW that I'm going to explain to you. So once people got to know that I got a green card, I was receiving a lot of calls, especially last week but one. I think for the past 3 weeks, I was receiving a lot of calls, people just inquiring and asking me. And some of them were then taking me to this website, right? To a website, and they will be arguing their questions on a website. So I just want you guys to be clear. If you are looking for EB2 NIW, just go on your web browser and Google EB2 NIW and then put USCIS in front. The first line that comes on top, that is the page that you should open. If you open that page, it should then take you to something like this, okay? And at this page, this is where a lot of people are getting lost. And I think this is why I ended up doing actually this Zoom call, because a lot of people were arguing with me about this page, all right? A lot of people think they do not meet the requirement on advanced degree, and they jump to what is called exceptional ability, which is actually the section number 2 there. And I think you can see I've put some asterisks or X's in red under that section. So if you do have a master's degree or you have a bachelor's degree and 5 years experience, do not even read about exceptional ability. Just jump that section. Your section is advanced degree, okay? Because if you go on exceptional ability, then you come to this section again where they talk about the criteria here, right? And the people are over-focusing themselves. Oh, this criteria, I have to meet this criteria. And I'm always like, no, you don't need to look at this section because it doesn't apply to you. You just need to look at this section, which is written advanced degree. So that's where you need to start reading and actually to start what is needed, not the exceptional ability. Exceptional ability is for people who, who might not have a degree, but they're exceptional in one way or the other in their endeavors or in their work areas. But if you just have a master's degree, it's very simple to prove that you have a master's degree. You just give them your certificate and the transcripts. That's all. That's all. You are done. And then we go to the next thing, right? I think I have explained that one very well. Now, let's go on to what they call the endeavor. Endeavor is that project that you're going to be doing. It is that attempt. You know, I actually Googled the Merriam-Webster dictionary and said an endeavor is an attempt where you are putting effort, you are exerting effort, okay? But this word endeavor, you need to think about it, dream about it. Now, from today, you have to use the language, I am preparing an endeavor. I'm looking for an endeavor. I need an endeavor, because you need what is called an endeavor for you to apply for EB2 NIW, right? So, in other words, an endeavor just, according to the USCIS, it's what do you want to do? What is it that you're going to be doing so that we can actually give you a green card so that you can do it, right? So they use USCIS actually defines an endeavor as something that is more specific, not just your general occupation, but something that is more specific. They even give an example. If you look on my slide, which is where they say engineering is an occupation, but the explanation of your proposed endeavor should describe the specific projects and goals or the areas of engineering in which the person will work. Rather than simply listing the duties and responsibilities of an engineer, you need to explain, hey, I am an engineer, I'm a software engineer, and I'll be working on artificial intelligence, and I am building projects in artificial intelligence, which will help people in mental health. So that's kind of the thinking that you actually need to have to get what we call the right endeavor. So this is the keyword. Endeavor is what you're supposed to be doing so that the USCIS can give you the green card for, okay? So this endeavor can be demonstrated in different areas, right? I think all of us, we know about the STEM, which is science, technology, maths, blah, blah. But it can also be demonstrated in culture, in health, in education, in business, and in entrepreneurship, right? But then the next question, how do you then carry your endeavor? So I know for a lot of you guys here, you have master's degrees, you are working for a company. Your job can actually carry your endeavor. So when you're doing your application, you can then argue that I'm working at this job and I'm special, I'm important to the company that I'm working for, and my company is special and important to the government of America because we are solving a mental health issue. We are solving an issue to do with artificial intelligence, and we are promoting the use of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity, for example. And then you take that job as your vehicle to carry your endeavor, right? You can also carry your endeavor by starting a company, right? That's exactly what I did. I started my own companies, and my companies carried my own endeavor. You can also do an endeavor through, if you're a researcher, let's say you are doing a PhD, or when you were doing your master's, you only published 4 papers, 3 papers, or something like that, or you were writing articles in journals, or you were writing articles in newspapers as an expert. You can use those ones as a researcher, a subject matter expert, and say, hey, look, my endeavor is to continue to research and to write articles about this subject, right? So you need to understand the concept of an endeavor, and then the concept of how do I carry my endeavor to argue my case, all right? For example, myself, I was working on a project that helps people to send remittances to Africa in a legal manner to reduce money laundering issues. And I was carrying that through my company called Siga Money, okay? So I was arguing about this project that I'm doing is very important because of A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, but I'm going to do it through my company, right? I hope you're getting the clarity of the matter here, right? And for you to really get this issue right, you need to understand this thing called the matter of Danaher, right? The matter of Danaher. So you can actually Google matter of Danaher and you can read about the matter of Danaher, right? Matter of Danaher is a case of somebody who was an immigrant like all of us here, who argued his case when he was denied a green card, an EB2 NIW in 2016. And he argued that my case is strong, I should be given this visa. And he went to the court, and the judges judged and made a determination in favor of his case. So his case then became law. So all our applications that we're doing today in the USA about this EB2 NIW, they use the matter of Danaher as a point of reference. So you just need to Google and read about it. But now I'm going to show you how the matter of Danaher then brings what we call the 3 prongs of the endeavor. Okay, the 3 prongs of endeavor. So you're an endeavor. I hope you understood what I described, what is an endeavor, right? So now I'm going to use the word endeavor like you know it. So an endeavor, your endeavor has to make sure that it has these 3 prongs. So the journey for application is like this, or the journey for preparing to apply for a green card, EB2 NIW, looks like this. You need to meet the eligibility criteria. And if you do have a master's degree, you do meet that criteria. And if you have exceptional ability, you do meet that criteria. But it's very difficult to prove exceptional ability because it's based on discretion. It depends with the officer who will see your case. But a master's degree, no one can argue against it as long as you supply the diploma, certificate, and the transcripts, right? So once you make sure that you have, now you are eligible. Now you move to the next thing. What is my proposed endeavor? That proposed endeavor should have 3 prongs. In other words, it will be tested through what they call a 3-prong test. And that 3-prong test is based on the matter of Danaher, that court case that this guy won, right? So the first prong is the person who is proposing to have an endeavor, his proposed endeavor should have both substantial merit and national importance, okay? The case or the endeavor, whatever effort you're going to put, the job that you're going to work, should have what they call substantial merit and national importance. I'll explain more about that. Then the second one is you, the person who is applying for this EB2 NIW. You should be well positioned to advance that proposed endeavor. In other words, you can actually advance and bring impact that you are claiming. You are well positioned to do that. All right. Then the third one is, on the balance, it will be beneficial to the United States as the government to waiver the job offer certification or the labor certification requirement in your case, because they think you are really, really special, you're valuable, and you are needed here in the United States of America. Okay, I hope you got this. Now we're going to explain more in detail about these 3 prongs of the endeavor. If you get this right, you realize that it's very easy for you to come up with a case that can win, that can pass. So the first prong is, your proposed endeavor should have substantial merit and national importance. Now, what is the definition of substantial merit? In a layman's language, in simple terms, substantial merit just means that your work is valuable to the national interest of the US. Okay? In other words, your work that you are proposing to do in any field, it promises some tangible benefit to the society. Okay? It can also then be defined as you're actually doing an endeavor, or you're putting effort to something that the government of America thinks is valuable, or the government of America thinks it is going to bring tangible benefit to their society. So this thing is not about you. It's about the government of the US. It is about satisfying that substantial merit aspect of them saying, hey, we think what you're doing is very important. We think what you're doing is very special. That's why we're giving you this green card. Okay. So as you know, this and the merits, the substantial merit can be demonstrated in different areas, right? Like business, entrepreneurship, and STEM, culture, health, and education. And so if you have got a degree in health, you're already maybe 60% into qualifying to come up with a strong case. If you are into culture, let's assume that you are very much into culture, you have a master's degree in culture, you bring communities together, you are way much again ahead in the game. If you are studying entrepreneurship, or you are an entrepreneur, or you're thinking, I can start a company, you're already also ahead of the game, right? If you're thinking of starting a business, the same thing. Okay, so this thing has nothing to do with only STEM people. It has to do with a lot of other areas. It depends with how you're going to structure your argument. All right, now let's go to the issue of meaning of national importance. Now, national importance just means whatever you're going to do is going to have a broad national level impact in the US. So it might not necessarily mean that you're going to impact all the geographics or the 50 states. Not necessarily. You might actually invent a medicine, for example, and you are in one state in New York, but that medication or the research that you're doing about that medication will also be used in the nation by other universities, by other scientists. So by doing that, there is a broad national level impact. Okay, so that's what it means. So the first prong for you to meet it, remember, substantial merit and then national importance. Now, how do you determine that your case has got substantial merit? You have to go and check on these websites. Congress.gov. You look at the bills that the Congress is always pushing, right? What are they talking about these days? Whatever they're talking about these days, that thing is of substantial merit. Okay, just get it. That's how it works. Whatever the White House is talking about, when the president comes out and say we are concerned about this issue, that thing now is actually of national interest and it has substantial merit. So this is how you come up with your case. You'll be looking at this website. Okay. Second prong. This one is self-explanatory, but a lot of people miss it too. This one focuses on you. The question is, are you well positioned to advance your proposed endeavor? What do you have? What skills do you have? So they will be looking at your experience, your education, your skills, your knowledge, your record of success. If you are establishing a company, they need maybe a business plan. If you are planning to, be working in some certain researches, they need a plan, a personal plan, right? Maybe you're saying, I'm going to be a community builder around Black people, issues to do with immigration. They need a plan to see that actually you're going to be doing this. They'll also ask you, what else have you done in this area that we can see that already you are well positioned to achieve this proposed endeavor? All right. So this one is more self-explanatory, but just remember, it focuses on you. it removes the attention from the endeavor. Then the third one, if you can make a good argument on the first two, the third one is automatic. You will actually get it, because at this point now you are arguing that I'm special, I'm important, and my endeavor is of substantial and national merit, and I'm well positioned to execute it. So just waive the permanent labor certification requirements in my case. All right. So if you can satisfy prong number 1 and prong number 2, most likely you will just satisfy prong number 3. Now, let us go to the most difficult thing. How do I build a profile? Some of you here, you are students, and I know that you are trying to build your profile. So it can take you 6 months. It can even take you 1 year. Some people, it can take you 2 years. Some of you, you just need a month. Some of you need 2 months just to look back what you've done and then put it on paper. So it depends with every individual and circumstances, right? But I can promise you, the more you have worked here in America, if you're working for a bigger company, if you are working for a bank, I can promise you, you can get a green card. If you are working for these technological companies, I can promise you, most likely you can get EB2 NIW with 2 months preparation or even less, okay? Because already you are well positioned to argue the case. So now the question is, how do I do this? A lot of people talk about STEM, right? I saw someone with a Bachelor of Physics. That's a straightforward case, okay? But that's STEM. It's easy. Even lawyers, they love those cases because most likely those cases will go through and their rate of success will continue in the 98, 99%. If you look at any immigration officer, they boast about, 98% success history, but they're taking the cream of the cases. They're not taking those cases of people who are not in the STEM. They run away from these cases, okay? Now, so how do you build a profile? Already the website, they have told us that you have to look in areas to do with business, with entrepreneurship, with culture, health, and education. If you can start from there, then that's great, okay? Let us assume that you are in a field like human resources management. And I'm going to give that as an example because it's not necessarily STEM, but you are managing people as a people's manager, okay? You have then to think like, how can I attach my experience as a human resource manager to these other fields, which are fields which can demonstrate areas of national merit and substantial merit. So you can then position yourself, for example, as a human resources personnel who is helping people in technology, right? You are helping companies to employ the right people in artificial intelligence. For example, you're helping people to actually employ great healthcare talent, and you're doing something around that. It's just about taking your life and then attach it to the thing that they require. That's how it works in America, okay? Now, so what do? You look on those websites and find things that the government is interested in. The website, the congress.gov, go and check on what bills are they talking about for the past 3 years. What laws did they pass, right? Look at the White House. What is Biden talking about, right? What is the vice president always talking about, right? They always talk about women. They always talk about Black people. They always talk about financial inclusion. They're talking about, bringing diversity and inclusion. All those things are things of national merit because they're being mentioned by the president. And that's your evidence when you're arguing your case. You're saying, hey, look, the president said this last week. So this should be a substance of substantial merit. Okay, you also look at your past experience and skills and look, hey, what do I have already in my bucket that I can pull out here and use as a skill to argue my case? But the other thing also is I want you to think futuristic. Don't just look at yourself and say, hey, I've got a bachelor's degree in Shona, so I can't apply for this, or I've got a master's in Shona. The question is, how can you apply your master's degree in Shona now to get what we can call current skills or futuristic skills? Not necessarily that you get new skills, but how can you position your master's degree in arts to impact or to get a green card leveraging science, technology, health, education, and culture? Okay, you just look around those things, okay? And then you need to have a vehicle. When you are planning about this thing and building your profile, ask yourself, how am I going to argue my case? Am I going to stick with my job as an argument? Am I going to start a company? Am I going to pose myself as a researcher, somebody who is writing articles? Or what exactly am I going to do? Because that is very important to show that you are well positioned then to do your project. Okay. The next thing that we'll talk about is areas of interest. And I think I've already mentioned these areas of interest. I think by now you can actually see that that we are moving forward, right? So areas of interest, I actually already mentioned this, right? The basic ones, business, entrepreneurship, science, technology, culture, health, or education. These are the broad areas of interest to the government of the United States. But there are many other areas of interest that they do mention if you look on how the politics is played in America, like the issue to do with women, financial inclusion, diversity and inclusion, entrepreneurship, issues to do with climate change and sustainability, issues to do with the BIPOC populations, you know, Black, Indigenous, and people of color empowerment, things to do with education, everything to do with STEM. Let's assume that you are actually a primary school teacher, but you're specializing in teaching mathematics and chemistry. You don't have a master's degree, but you've been teaching for the past 5 years. You can argue to get an EB2 NIW national interest waiver because you are preparing the kids in STEM fields early enough in their lives, and you can argue that case. And I know somebody who got a green card using an argument along those lines, right? You can also look at things like to do with children rights, community building. America is all about community building, culture, and things like that. What can you do as far as community building is concerned that you can use to actually build your profile? Also look at issues to do with working with immigrants, right? Do you understand basics of finance? Can you help immigrants which are coming from as people who are coming as refugees to adapt to America fast, to learn the financial ecosystem of America, something like that? You can just argue your case along those lines, all right? And then application process. The application process here for the EB2 NIW is very, very straightforward, right? So you just use a form called I-140. After they have approved your case, you then do a change of status, which is called I-485, right? That will take you to a green card, okay? You can also go on this website and just read about this website because that's where you get the I-140. And when you're dealing with these forms, especially the USCIS department, just go on their website. They change things very frequently, and you don't want to use an old form because if you use an old form, automatically they will just reject your application. Okay, so you don't need to do that. And how much do you pay, right? It's $715. And usually it can take 6 months to maybe a year, but applications were actually coming out within 6 months, right? I know somebody's case who came out actually in something like 10 weeks, all right? Which is very fast. And that's under ordinary application. Like you're not fast tracking it, right? But you can also do what they call premium processing, and your application can come very, very fast. They say it will come out after 45 days. But myself, I did premium processing. It came out literally in 3-4 days, right? Like in 3-4 days, 4 days, they actually wrote me and said, hey, we have approved your application. All right. So let's go to this question. Should I use a lawyer or not use a lawyer? You can use a lawyer, especially if you do have the money to pay them $7,000 to $20,000. That is how they range. You can use a lawyer to do that, right? Usually, you can also use a lawyer if the lawyer is understanding your case. They normally love STEM cases of people who are high achievers, who are already just going to get it because they don't want their reputation to go, their rates to go below like 90%. Okay, but you can use a lawyer if you can have $7,000 to $20,000. In fact, if you are not coming from a STEM field like software engineering, they will charge you more, okay? Because they say they will take more time to talk with you and find ways of exactly how they can position your application, all right? But you can also do it yourself, right? You can also do it yourself, especially when you're starting to build your profile by yourself. And if you don't have a lot of money, right? But maybe you have time to write your petition by yourself, or the lawyers do not understand what you're projecting to them, then in that case, you have no option but actually have to do it, right? But the most important thing that I want to encourage you to do is do not wait for whatever reason. Do not say, hey, it's going to take long, or it's going to cost money, or lawyers are expensive, or whatever you're going to say, right? Just find a position and take a stance and start to work on your EB2 NIW, right? The earlier, the better, right? And if you're going to do it by yourself, the application itself is just $700. And I think a lot of people don't even know this. It's $700. For you to push in an application, they need about $715. Okay, so that's a risk that is worth taking. You just send in $700, you wait for 6 months, 8 months, and you hear what they say. Okay, in most cases, they'll come back to you and say, hey, we need more evidence, we need more information. What were you talking about here? Where is the evidence? Where is the proof? Because whatever you're claiming, you then have to attach a lot of proof to that thing. Okay. Yeah, so I think this is the main story. But let me reiterate my story again, and maybe how can I help in your cases, some of you guys here, because I've been receiving a lot of calls, which then mandated me to have this Zoom call because a lot of people were calling, right? Even right now when I'm talking with you, some people are actually texting and calling. I think they don't know that I'm holding this Zoom call, this webinar, all right? So my story in full, this is my approval notice, which came 4 days after the application. But my story in full, how did I prove eligibility? I just used my master's degree, right? I didn't even mention the fact that I'm a pharmacist, all these kind of things. I didn't use that, right? I just used my master's degree. I have got a master's degree in global management, okay? And that's how I approved my eligibility. So don't try to be too sophisticated when it comes to eligibility. If you have a master's degree or a bachelor's with 5 years experience, that's it. That will work out, okay? Then what was my endeavor? Because I think some of you here, you actually you want to read, how did my endeavor look like? This is exactly what my endeavor looked like. My endeavor was, so this is how you write it, right? Myself, I wrote it this way. My endeavor is entrepreneurial with 2 distinct causes. The first cause involves encouraging legal remittances and reducing the cost of remittances. The second cause focuses on promoting entrepreneurship among socially and economically disadvantaged individuals in the US by assisting them in gaining access to available funding from private investors and the US government for their startups and small to medium business acquisitions. I am advancing my endeavor through 2 of my incorporated companies in the US, Siga Fintech Inc. for the first cause and Vasga Ventures for the second cause. You see, so it has to be very clear. What is your endeavor? This is my endeavor. How are you going to accomplish it? I'm using this vehicle, right? I just thought some people would want to hear this. Now, how did I pass prong 1? Substantial merit and national importance. This is exactly how you do it. Listen to the first sentence. I wrote, the US government is actively promoting access to capital for entrepreneurship in underserved communities, as demonstrated by this initiative. And then straight away, I did quote one of the statutes that I found on the government's website. So that quote is straight away from the government's website. And that's what I'm showing. I'm showing them this is very important. This is of substantial merit. It is of substantial merit because, look, there is actually a law which is guiding this. You see, I'll not read what it says, but I'll then go to the next to show you how I'll then argue after posting evidence from their website. So you pick something from their website, and this is how you then argue. Listen to this. I said, the work that I'm doing with Vasga Ventures is substantial merit, as I am promoting entrepreneurship among socially and economically disadvantaged individuals in the US by assisting them in gaining access to available funding from private investors and the US government for their startups and small business operations. This is evidenced by various legislations and the promotion of financial inclusion, aligning with the goals of the US government of advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities as outlined above. So outlined above, I had given them various quotations like this one from their websites. And then I'm pointing at their website, I'm saying that's the evidence that my case has substantial merit and it has national importance. Okay, let's go to prong number 2. How did I satisfy? This is one of the statements that I used to satisfy that I'm more positioned, right? I had worked for a venture capital firm. I had worked as a startup coach. So I'm showing them, hey, look, I have worked for this company and I networked in this area. So I have good connections in this area. So I'm well positioned. I also then attached the recommendation letter. I changed the names there, but I attached the recommendation letter from my previous boss, which was showing that I was working with this company and I gained insights in entrepreneurship and in helping underserved communities. Prong number 3 is automatic, but I argued because mine was entrepreneurship. I then just argued like on balance, it would be beneficial to the United States to waiver the job offer and labor certification requirements. My entrepreneurial endeavor makes it illogical and impossible to secure employer sponsorship. My endeavor has economic benefits for the U.S., including direct and indirect employment creation and taxes it will pay. And despite having others pursuing similar projects, it is still beneficial to the U.S. government for me to pursue this endeavor. So I'm showing them I'm not disadvantaging anyone. In fact, I'm actually bringing impact, right? So you should waiver the labor certification requirements. So this is how my story looked like, and this is how I ended up getting the green card. Okay.
So to continue with the process of helping people to understand more about EB2 NIW visa process, I have created a community of people of the same mind to actually come together and understand more, learn more about how to do the process for the EB2 NIW. And what you benefit in that community basically is I am going to help you together with other people on crafting your endeavor or crafting your story, so that you can tell a better story to the immigration officers when you are doing the application for the EB2 NIW. We'll give you templates. We will be having Zoom calls with you. We'll also have one-on-one sessions with you to just understand your story and help you to craft a better story so that you can stand a better chance of getting your EB2 NIW application approved. That might actually, quicken the process of other people to become permanent residents, as compared to staying on asylum for 4, 5, 6 years as an asylum seeker, or staying on F1, OPTs, TEM, or even H1B, which is not necessarily a permanent status in the United States of America. So if you're interested about this EB2 NIW, you can check out our community, and I'll put the link in the description of this video. Check out that link, and we'll be happy to hear what you think about what we're doing and the community. And going forward, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I'll be sharing a lot of other information on this channel about immigration too. So stay tuned.